7 years, I guess, and I was a software engineer for Appflow for a long time, and then I became a manager of such team, I guess, recently.
Okay, you want to do other introductions? Should we just get started?
Yeah, just wanted to quickly say as well that we are right now being hosted by Profit Optics. So they are our amazing partners right now. And I have Felicia. I don't know if this is, yeah, there's Felicia. And we also have Greg over here and Trent, who is a virtual attendee. So yeah, I'll let you just kick it off.
Sounds good. Okay, so we prepared just a quick overview for Ionic for you all. And then, so I'll run through that. Happy to answer any questions. And then I'm going to turn it over to Gio, who's going to walk through an Appflow demo. The focus of kind of the overview is on our open source products, Ionic's open source products. And by the way, Ionic is a part of the OutSystems family. So with that, let's get started. So just at a high level, kind of building mobile apps is hard. And why is it hard? Because you require kind of developer proficiency for each of the targeted platforms. Like if you're building for Android versus if you're building for iOS, there's a specific set of skills that are required to develop for each of the operating systems. And then if you're building an app that runs on both iOS and Android app stores.
One second, it says your screen sharing is paused. Do you want to click on that? It looks like, are you guys able to see his screen?
Weird.
No,
it's stuck on loading.
You should probably stop the sharing.
Okay, how about now? Can you guys see it now?
Yeah, I think.
Because
Yes.
Yep.
Perfect.
so
Yeah.
it's to say building apps
Thank
is
you.
hard. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, it is hard. Okay,
Thank
cool.
you.
Apparently screen sharing is hard too. We'll just stick to this mode. So when you're building mobile apps, it's a challenging thing to do, not just from a developer proficiency perspective, but also if you're building an app that runs on the Google Play Store or the iOS store, you're managing completely separate code bases for your iOS and Android app, especially if you're building natively. And if you're building with React Native, you have a singular code base, but then your website is essentially in web code. So think of a company or think of a developer that wants to build a website and mobile apps. They now have to manage 2 to 3 different code bases, which becomes pretty challenging as you're trying to develop features and deliver for your users or your customers, etc. And then you're also like kind of constantly adapting to the technology change. So every year, every 6 months, there are iOS updates, there are Android updates, multiple versions of the kind of Android operating systems that mobile app developers have to like now stay up to speed with, not just to like stay on the latest and greatest stack, but also, you know, every year there's like certain changes that you need to update your app to be able to actually get deployed in the app stores correctly. So all these things together make mobile app development hard. However, there is a easier way to build mobile applications, and we call that the Ionic way. So at a high level, Ionic is a hybrid web mobile app development technology or SDK. What does hybrid web mean? That it means that you can take web developers that can program in any kind of web technology like Angular, React, Vue, JavaScript, to write web code that runs and functions and looks like a native mobile application installed on your phone. It doesn't look like a website, has all the native look and feel, how you're used to like kind of experiencing your application. What this helps with is that you can write a singular code base. So you can write your web code, and then your web code runs on your website, it runs on your iOS mobile app, and it runs on your Android mobile app. So at the end of the day, you can basically manage to a singular code base. Web tech developers already know the technology they like working in, like Angular or Vue or React. And then we basically provide everything out of the box. And most of our software is open source, so it has a huge developer community across the world that you can kind of share ideas with and essentially continue to kind of develop on our platform. The typical Ionic developer persona that we work with or that use our open source technology, first and foremost, web developer. oftentimes new to mobile app development, and they're looking to figure out how to leverage their web skills to deliver a highly kind of native look and feel and performing mobile application. They're not necessarily up to speed with the latest and greatest iOS development or Android or Java development. And they're essentially building all sorts of different apps. So that's the typical kind of developer persona. Before I kind of like take a deeper dive into our open source technology, let's just do like a quick like web tech interlude or a story to walk through kind of like why it made sense to build Ionic as like Ionic technology and kind of how we came about. So basically back in 2009, Cordova, which is another open source technology, essentially paved the way to be able to have a single code base for your native mobile applications and your web applications. Now, I had some animation here, but clearly I'm not in presentation mode because that's not working. So the Apache basically released Cordova, and the tagline was that your web developers have new superpowers. Now they can build mobile apps. But they looked like the mobile app on the right-hand side. I had to search hard for a old iOS image, but essentially, this is what Cordova app looked like out the box. It looked like a pretty terrible looking website.
Not a superpower.
Not a superpower. So, and why was this the case? Because if on the left-hand side is a native SDK, right? Like it's not only a native app, but it also comes with like UX that we're used to, like scrolling on a mobile phone, navigation, tabs, lists, gestures, animations, etc. And essentially Cordova basically just provided the native layer for you to run a web view or web code inside of a native app. It didn't come with anything else, which is why it kind of looked like, this. Despite that, so that Cordova came out and it got a lot of adoption from web developers to be able to build out mobile apps. However, the mobile apps did not have a great look and feel. So we built the Ionic framework back in 2012, basically, which is a complete mobile UI toolkit that takes your existing web code and makes it look, feel like a mobile application, complete with like gestures and animations, calendar settings, etc. Secondly, developers actually hate building with Cordova. It's like the second most dreaded technology solution, and this is on the Stack Overflow survey. And then Adobe basically abandoned it, gave it out to the community. So then we were thinking like, now what? Cordova, no one likes developing with Cordova. We have a mobile UI front end that's built off of Cordova. So essentially we built a spiritual successor to Cordova, which is called Capacitor, which is a modern native runtime. And it essentially replaces Cordova wholesales and connects web code to a mobile app's native layer. So you'll hear two things quite often from me: Ionic framework and Capacitor. Those are our two open source projects that you can Google and look at. Ionic framework is a mobile UI toolkit, and Capacitor is the native runtime, which basically, think of it this way, basically enables your web code to be able to interact with mobile, like on your mobile device with the camera, with the keyboard, with biometrics, etc. Otherwise, web code is not able to interact with native things on your mobile application. So that's what Capacitor helps you do. And essentially, Capacitor is really popular. It's #1 in satisfaction for mobile app development 2 years in a row. And essentially, why Ionic framework and Capacitor help kind of solve the hybrid web development problem holistically is because with the Ionic stack, you not only have a native app runtime, but then you have all the navigations and tabs and buttons, etc., that your users or mobile app users are used to experiencing. So with that little bit of a backstory, let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into our open source offerings. So overall, we refer to all of our open source offerings together as the Ionic SDK or software development kit. And it basically, like I said before, helps you build fantastic looking mobile applications with web technology. The Ionic framework basically comes with is fully customizable, themable, It has 100+ kind of UI building blocks, like in terms of like large text scrolling, native look and feel controls, and it has adaptive styling. So like for Google devices, it follows the Google kind of design, UX design principles. For iOS devices, it follows iOS design principles. And then it's able, like the framework is able to figure out what device is running on, what mode is running on, like light mode, dark mode, and basically adapts your mobile app to the mobile app, like the mobile devices settings, essentially. So you don't, like as a web developer, you don't have to worry about kind of programming any of that in. It just kind of detects what your mobile device settings are. I didn't talk about this open source product, but it's important. It's called Stencil. It's essentially a web component compiler. So if you're building a design system where you want to have like the same branding and UI components kind of transfer from your website to your mobile application, and you want to have like cross-platform, cross-framework outputs, you would use Stencil. Stencil is the backbone for Ionic framework, but companies like Apple and Amazon use Stencil on its own to build out their own mobile UI framework. So if you don't want to use Ionic, you can use Stencil to build a fully customized framework on your own. We use Stencil for obviously Ionic framework, but then we realized that it, on its own right, it was very popular, so we open sourced that portion of the Ionic framework as well. Okay, so I don't have, like, if you all have an iOS app or iOS phone, if you go to your music, Apple Music, I'm just going to put it in front of the, like, this is Apple Music. So you'll see there are different kind of, as you scroll down, there's like different categories, like it says browse categories, etc. Essentially, the bottom bar that you control your music from is purely native, written in Swift, but then everything else is designed with Stencil to get the right look and feel for a mobile optimized experience. So this is all essentially web code running in the middle of a native mobile app designed using Stencil. So Apple uses Stencil quite pervasively across Apple Music, Apple TV, to kind of get the same brand from their website flowing into all of their mobile applications. Okay. That's certainly not least, talked about Capacitor, take a little bit of a deeper dive. It's a native runtime from Ionic, essentially a spiritual successor for Cordova. We support all of Cordova plugins, so a lot of mobile apps that are built in Cordova can easily be switched over to Capacitor, and they're backwards compatible with Cordova. It's 100% for cross-platform apps designed to, like, so you write once and you run it on Android or iOS, etc. And it's very simple and extendable. And I'd encourage you to give it a look and give it a try. And basically, essentially what Capacitor is doing is giving you native performance with web code. So like native scrolling, smooth transitions, all sorts of touch events that you're used to on your phone, basically become a part of your mobile application. That's a very quick rundown of our kind of open source technology, a little bit about Ionic. Just two things on Ionic adoption. So we are currently, if we look at the App Store, about 10% of mobile applications that are in the App Store are built on Ionic. And about 15% of the applications that are on the Google Play Store are built on the Ionic open source stack. So we have a pretty wide adoption. And if you see the top lines, which is Swift and Kotlin. Swift is the programming language by Apple for iOS. Kotlin is the programming language by Google for Android. So that goes back to the earlier point. If you're building an iOS app and the same app for Google in native technology, you would write it in two different languages. With Ionic, you just basically write it once, and we're fairly well adopted across the public B2C or public applications on the App Store. Finally, we have a fairly large developer community across the world, about 46K GitHub stars with top 150 SDKs. We have like kind of 100+ global meetups. These are all organic. These are per year, by the way, all organic, not necessarily sponsored by Ionic. Obviously, we help the organizers facilitate them, but essentially we have a pretty wide global audience of developers that uses Ionic to build mobile applications. That was kind of very fast overview of Ionic and our open source product. Before I turn it over to Gio for Appflow, any questions on Ionic or our open source products? I'm gonna switch seats from you.
And I guess I have one question, and that question comes up pretty often during meetings sometimes. So people want to understand, when will they build native, 100% native applications versus deciding to use a wrapper or the web-based type of technology around? And this might be for Gio, but this could be for both.
I can weigh in and you can weigh in.
Yeah, you can start and then
Okay.
I can.
So I think the like from my seat, it really depends on like what type of kind of developers you have, like if they're familiar with Swift and Kotlin and native application development, then you do what's like kind of you have your development skill set in. If you have a team of web developers, then you would use Ionic stack. We do have a product that's not open source that kind of bridges native and hybrid web development. So if you have a native application, you can use one of our products called Portals inside that native application. I didn't talk about that just because I kind of wanted to focus on open source, but we have products that work in native applications too. But the question being is essentially where your development skill set is. And if you're working for like a company and building a mobile app, then it's an architectural decision in terms of like, do you want to have one code base for your web, iOS and Android app, or do you want to have three separate code bases? At least that's my take. What's your take?
I think that more or less what you said, that just anecdotally, I was recently at a conference, Python conference, and their app was built with Ionic, and the person who built the app was a backend engineer, had absolutely no clue about mobile development, but he had to put together this conference app, and they tried Ionic, and with their knowledge of just programming and a bit of front-end technology, they were able to create the app. It was the app we were using at the conference. So it depends really on the skill set in the company, and also the kind of investment that the company wants to do, like hiring native developers is way more expensive than hiring web developers, and simply because they are more specialized and more harder to find. And so there are several factors to keep in account. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Are there things that Ionic can't do that you can do in native? I mean, is that because it doesn't make sense that you would go to a native developer that's more expensive, harder to find, if there's not things you can't do.
If you're building a gaming application,
Yeah.
with like a lot of kind of like, I don't know, I would not use hybrid web just because of like the streaming lag.
Yeah.
But that's literally the only use case. Like if you, like most of our customers are essentially have made that decision that they don't want to have three separate teams.
Right.
And they don't want to have three separate code bases.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, from like just a pure developer standpoint, like it's kind of, there's like there are new trends in terms of like developers have an identity around like I'm a native developer, or I'm a React native developer, or I'm an Ionic developer. And that sometimes it's hard to break through, even though it may or may not make business sense.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, for a long time also, there was this, mostly Cordova's fault, from Gap fault, that at the very beginning apps, hybrid apps were really poorly performant. And so there is this bad name that hybrid app have. But like a reason, if you benchmark an app now, I don't know, because again, I'm not involved with that part, but I heard in several talks that it is like performing great. depends what, like, again, like, gaming apps is probably a bad idea. Another thing that we were not able to do was background tasks. Now I'm getting a bit technical, like, I don't know if you want, the app is closed and you want to access, I don't know, the location. You could not do that, but literally like last week or 2 weeks ago, we released that plugin, like for doing that, or capacitor. So like we are closing the gaps, and more like there's less and less reason not to use it.
That's good for me.
Okay. So one other question, you mentioned before we started Ionic, obviously part of OutSystems. Is it a separate license? Is it part of the overall OutSystems license? How does that work?
It's a separate license right now, where the plan is to have kind of a singular license product.
Okay,
But right now, it's like if you're looking into Ionic, you're essentially developing like a high code mobile application, and you'll be looking at our system, you're developing a low code mobile application.
Okay.
So like use cases are so different that we haven't kind of combined the licenses.
Okay, I am gonna share my entire screen because I have I'm gonna talk about Appflow. That is our yes, this is working.
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
So sharing the entire screen makes it makes the difference. Okay, so Appflow is Ionic SaaS product, is a CI/CD system to build mobile apps, and well, this is me. I already introduced myself, and a lot of this is kind of a quick recap of what Faisal already said. Like mobile development and the mobile deployments are kind of complex. Like both building and deploying an app, a mobile app, is quite complex. And the traditional CI/CD systems are they're not designed really for mobile. I mean, that's not completely true in the sense that you can build a mobile application in Travis, GitHub Action, Azure, wherever, but you really need to set up the environment yourself. There's nothing dedicated to do that out of the box. There are also deploying that the apps to the App Store is also like a kind of a manual process if you do use these systems. So, but what makes mobile different? This is like the same as Faisal said. Like the big difference is that it's very dependent on the environment, the development environment. So like if you want to build the iOS app, you need to have a Mac. Like not everybody has a Mac. Definitely not, like you need multiple environments for like Android and iOS. Yes, you can build Android app on Macs, but not vice versa. And well, you cannot build the Mac app on Linux or Windows. There are also like the environment itself changes constantly. Like Android is less guilty of this, but Apple is quite brutal with like a lack of backwards compatibility. Like end of April, they decided that to deploy a new app to the App Store, you needed to build the app with Xcode 14.1, if I recall. And anything before that is basically, right now, the latest Xcode is 14.3. So they kind of you need to upgrade your entire CI/CD system yourself. And also, this is common between Android and iOS, although again, Apple is more difficult. Dealing with the signing credential is also pretty hard. also shipping the apps to the app stores is quite difficult. Especially again, Apple is quite strict with their terms of service, and like a review process takes time. You can be denied for reasons that sometimes are not that clear. Yeah, there are a bunch of other like problems that probably like developers know really well, like access different kind of channels inside development. That's why like the different channels on the Play Store and so on. Like I was saying before, even maintaining like the apps is kind of difficult, because like you need to maintain different kind of environment for building your apps. Maybe you don't, you are not deploying via the App Store, but still you need to build like on a legacy environment that they don't need to change. They need to be stable enough for you to keep to be consistent with the building your own app. This is if you want to keep that, but if you need to be up to date with the app store, so you need to constantly recreate these environments as technology as requirements change, the example of Xcode before, but also Node for hybrid apps change quite frequently, I don't know, there are some dependency for high code, CocoaPods for iOS and other kind of requirements for Android as well. So what can Appflow do to help your life? We can build apps for any kind, most kind of apps for mobile. We can, of course, build Ionic apps, so hybrid apps built on Ionic, but we can also build any kind of hybrid apps built with the capacitor or Cordova, and on top even pure JavaScript. It doesn't matter if it is a Ionic framework code on top of that, but we can also build React Native app, pure iOS apps and pure Android apps, and soon we are gonna introduce also support for frontend. We also can deploy your apps to the Apple Store, Google Play Store, and then we have live updates. So live updates is something specific to hybrid apps, a step back. Hybrid apps are built with, like Faisal was saying, there is basically a single page app on top of a native layer that interacts with the operating system. So the terms of service of Apple, especially Apple that is more strict, they allow to update any web static assets without going through review process. And that means that you can update your app without going through the review process, because basically the web parts of your app are static assets. And then we provide tooling to do this update, and our service is called live updates. So basically you build your web assets only, and you can deploy them directly to the app, over the air. And we have different flavors of live updates. There are the normal ones where we build the web assets for you, and then we store and we deploy them to your apps on the field. We have self-hosted, meaning these are more enterprise level, client builds and hosts their own static assets on their server. But we take care of telling the apps in production that these updates are available, and then allow the apps to download from where they are stored. And then a different flavor of self-hosted is signed self-hosted, that is for clients that are more security conscious. They can build their web static assets, and then sign them so that they can make sure that when they land on the app, on their like users app, the static assets are actually the one that have been actually built by them. Like they can check the signature and do that.
And this, like the live updates piece is like really the kind of like the one of like a very specific feature to Appflow and hybrid web, like Gio was saying. So one of our customers is Breeze Aviation. It's a new airline started by like the ex-JetBlue founders. And they were basically, they built a new mobile app, and their own team and crew were testing it out. So they were about to board a flight, and there was some glitch in their mobile app. None of their boarding passes were coming up on the mobile app because there was some issue with some interactivity, and it was an Ionic app. Their developers were able to ship a live update with a feature fix. So essentially the app, they could ship the bug over the air, and it like allowed the boarding pass to be displayed, and everybody could take a flight home.
The developers were in the airport waiting to board. Like they were there, like
So
they
like
did it
actually,
for
like,
the airport.
But if you were building a native mobile application, you would literally have to go to the app store and update your mobile app to get a new version of the app so like this is like a lot of our customers like Amtrak or AAA our customers, they use this for like not just like real-time bug fixes, but also like to try kind of like new ideas or new features with their users and quickly be able to like roll back if things don't look right. And that's only possible with web technology, because you're essentially just like your web page kind of refreshes in the app and doesn't have to get like a new code base downloaded on the phone.
So does that mean that it's really not in the App Store?
It is.
It is, but it basically,
It's just a pointer to a website almost.
and then that entire code base downloads to your phone. Okay. So it's kind of like you have to install the initial version of the App Store, and then any kind of like major upgrades we recommend that you push to the App Store. Like if you're updating the camera capability or like native, or like there's a whole list
So
of
that would
things.
go through Test Pilot.
Then we go to Test Pilot, go to the App Store, you would download. Yeah. But if you are changing like UI components or issuing some kind of bug fixes, then it's for Apple's terms, it's like acceptable.
Yeah.
And essentially it just downloads in your app, and then it's like local on the phone. Yeah.
We are actually gonna see this shortly, because like demo, like the finger crossed is because
We want our boarding pass.
yeah, oh my god. That's gonna be okay. So this is how Appflow looks like. Of course, I already logged in, and yes, this is me trying to. I did the entire like demo. There are the different stages of the demo already. These two apps, and the difference is that okay, I'm not gonna go through this, but there are different code bases, independent, because yeah, being like I was telling you, Faisal, like as a good software engineer, like you always think about the worst case scenario, and then yeah, you go from there. So a bit of like overview. So this is how like Appflow dashboard looks like. You have a bunch of apps, like these are all my test apps. And yeah, but a bunch of here on the left, there are several like other things, like native plugins are things that are for like you can purchase like for enterprise users. Portal is what like Faisal was saying, and then other like minor different things. Like, but anyway. You can create a new app directly from here, and this will walk through basically this wizard where you can select an app and then create a brand new app, and and then you will have the code on your Git repository that you can change. But yeah, for in this case, I just want to import an existing app, so I will call it
I like how the experience is very similar to the OutSystems interface.
Yeah, I know. I saw actually the demo of this last week, and I was like, like I could see the similarities. Like, yeah. But so you can select, like I was saying, that you can select the kind of app you are trying to import, and the reason why you need to select is because then it gives you a different experience when you go to build such app. Of course, like when you build a React Native app, you don't need to build I don't know, web parts of the app, and iOS and Android also have a different kind of flow. In this case, mine is a native, like an iOS apps. We access our like a Git repo. Yeah, select the app, and basically here I'm as soon as I connect the app to Appflow. Appflow tries to be smart and import the last 5 commits from your default branch, that is main in this case. Like any other commits will be pushed when it happens on GitHub. So as soon as you push the code on GitHub, the new commit will appear also here. But let's go ahead and build the first app. Let's say I'll build this one. Let's go back maybe. So when you want to build an app, you select, first of all, you select which commit. So basically where in time you want to build the code, the app from. And I decided to use this second commit, and then you decide which kind of app you want to build. Like there are 3 kind of builds you can run for hybrid apps. So web, it will just build the web parts. iOS, it will build an iOS app, and Android, of course, an Android. So in this case, I want to build a web app, and I want to see the preview of such app, and maybe in the meantime I will also trigger the build for iOS. iOS, like something to notice is that you have different build stacks. So build stacks are like basically the environment where the app is built, and they are basically maintained by us, and they are immutable, meaning we promise that we will create this, it will not change for 2 years, and then after 2 years we will retire it. But 2 years in mobile development is basically forever. Each of them has a bunch of version of software dependencies. You can see that, for example, 2021-10 had Xcode 13 and so on. But build types, these are all the kind of build types that you can build. They're kind of similar. Android has debug and release. iOS has way more. If you do in iOS any kind of build other than a simulator, you need like a sign-in certificate that I don't have for my app here. But yeah, you will have this signing certificate, and we can go here, and it kind of interface look like this. So you drop the credential here, and we pre-validate that these signing certificates are valid and they work. But yeah, for the sake of this demo, let's let's build. No, I didn't want to get this one. I want to build the second one. And also Android one. This is why I don't know why. Okay, let's see. It is building. Sorry. It's end of the day, so the entire infrastructure may have scaled down. So it took a while to start the build. Anyway, So I hope that by now this was gonna be done, but anyway, it will be done in a minute. What can we see in the meantime? So we have also support environments. These are kind of like important for web builds, because you can specify different kind of parameters for your app. Maybe you want to build like with the same code base, you want to build a test app for your test team, and or have different flows like in your app. And I don't know, with the same code base, you want to build an app for client A or client B, and based on the environment, you decide which one to build. You can specify secrets and variables. The difference is that the secrets you set once and you will never see and never be able to retrieve them again. Native config is different flavor of environment variable. Difference is that you can literally override the app bundle ID and the name. So that's because of especially Apple, the signing certificates are tied to the bundle ID. You might have like a bundle ID that let's say for your test team, and with the specific signing certificate for your test team. So what you really want is like to override this in a way that match your signing certificates, and the name, of course, you can change the name of the app to match different kind of build. This is to customize basically the over-the-air plugin, live updates plugin, but I'm not gonna talk about this. Here we already saw this, and the deploy, the automation is the deploy out. We'll see this later. Like the automation is you basically, let's say you want, every time you push code to a certain branch, you want to build another version of the app. You want to automatically build the code, and so you can specify I don't know, a specific branch, and then the kind of build you want to do, and you want always to be on the latest build stack. Maybe this is reasonable because you want to see when we upgrade the latest build stack, it will I don't know, maybe your app will break, and you want to know, and then you can also do web previews and assign it automatically to live updates, that is the over-the-air deployments, and also specify a custom webhook that we will call when with our data to say we are done with this build. The deployments are basically, you want to, well, let's talk about destination. So there are, like I was saying, there are three kinds of destinations. So the two stores, and the Apple Store, Google Play Store, and the live update channels. So Apple Store and Google Store are pretty clear with what happens. Like you ship your native app to the two different stores. The live update channels is basically for the over-the-air updates. This is important because you can point your native app to listen to this channel, and every time you deploy a web build to one of these channels, all the apps on the field that are connected to the internet, they will download the new version of the app and apply it to the app itself. So for example, this is we created a test channel. So in the meantime, this has build, and this is a web build, and what we can do with any web build, because they are web assets, you can hopefully see how it would look like on the phone.
If you have a phone on you, you can just scan that QR
code and and it would literally run. And and you can also, Faisal talked about this before, this is the Ionic framework, so it will automatically detect if it's running for like iOS and it looks like an iOS app, or if it's running on Android. This is how an Android app, I mean, it's not clear from this UI what is different, but like it would build like in a different way, and so it would look like a different. So what's next? These are the different apps. So now like because I don't want to push code live, I have a already this is the exact same app from the exact same code base that I was building before. I was showing before, and but what I want to show is this. So if I download this app here, so this app here, and I okay, and then I need in a simulator. This is like a simulator phone, and I can install this app on the phone. So this is this is not running on the web page. The previous one that you saw before, it's running in web page. So the look and feel, the look of phone is emulated. Like this one, it's like you could run on your phone, and so this is like how the page, like the app looks like exactly like you saw before. Now, let's say I'm pushing an update to like this page here, like maybe this is a typo, maybe this is something else that I wanted to change, and this update is in this build here, like in this commit here, like I call the changed page because I actually changed the page, and you can actually see how it looks like this page here. This is again, it's on our own dashboard. So this is the change that I made that is kind of quite different. But now I say like this app, like I was saying before, is actually listening to this test channel that I created. If I now say that I want to deploy this version of the app on the test channel, okay, you can see that now the test channel is assigned to the latest build. Whoever is using the app, as you can see, they keep using the old version, nothing changes for them, but the app in the background is downloading the update. And when you close the app and reopen it, hopefully, it shows you the latest version as it did. So what happened in the background, the app downloaded the live update from Appflow, and it applied to the to a folder inside the app itself, and refreshed the app to this. But let's say that there's a typo, there's a problem, anything with your deployment, you say, oh, well, maybe I should revert to the previous version. You can literally take the previous version. We are back to the previous version, and it's very hard to interact with the simulator.
I didn't seem to update it on this. When you said do the code, it came out like
That is that one. It doesn't update because it's that is just that build.
Got it.
So I will not. It's
okay.
just that it will always be.
So the next
that.
time if you do code, and that would
Yes, with the next build, like you can open that the other one. But yeah, this one now went back to the previous version of the app with and actually this time the app did not download the update because we keep well, developer that can decide how many version of the app can keep on the phone. By default, it's like 3, and they basically like, because the app was already like the older version was on the phone, it just changed the basically the pointer of the website to the other folder and refresh the web view. So this is more like a very quick demo, I would say. Like how much time do we have? Yeah, maybe another 5 minutes. Let me see if I have but just to show that yes, it's on main and edit. I want to auto deploy to test. I'm doing something I should never do. I know, but anybody should do. It is trying really like like something live that. So let's see. Okay, this is code. I hope it can be. I think it's visible. Okay, so this is. So this is like what you saw before, like, and let's say I want to change this to, I don't know. Okay.
Is there any recommended, I guess, load that you want to update right away that you suggest? Like how big or how heavy can that update be on the fly, sir?
I mean, the update we do with this kind of live updates, we do differential updates. So so basically we update what changed. So it's not that big. In reality, in single page apps and like React, Vue, like Angular, the JavaScript gets rebundled, so it can be quite different, the JavaScript. So it's not just this page that gets shipped. There's some more stuff overhead, I would say, that gets shipped, but usually it's quite small. If you don't change static assets, live updates is like kilobytes. It's very small, like but if you start to change, I don't know, images and stuff like that, like videos, yes, you can do. It's large, takes time because you need to download over the air, but it works. But in that scenario, we suggest that yes, you can do a live update for everybody, but at the same time, you should submit a new version of your app to the store with all these new assets so that the people can download that update and then start the differential from the new like version, I would say. Where is it? So what I did here was to change that code, and I pushed a new version. Here you see that, like I said, as soon as I push to GitHub, like the code is actually here on my GitHub repository, and the commits is here. And because I had then this automation in place that was listening on the main branch and building a web app to build a web build, it like there is a new web build that automatically started, and like this will take a couple minutes, but hopefully like will succeed, and it will automatically deploy this new version to the channel that we have, and so that theoretically, without touching anything, we should be able to like see the change here. npm build is not super fast, so it's npm remote. And that's why before I had everything pre-done. So
Oh, no.
what happened?
It's okay, you're still casting on the,
Yeah, I
on the
see.
Zoom. You're
Yeah.
fine.
Okay.
Keep going.
So, yes. So,
Or we can open up for questions as well.
yeah, exactly. Like feel free to, but to
Stop sharing and people can see you, I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully with your camera.
I think people can, or
I can still see it.
yeah, you can still see me and hear me because everything was.
So any question?
That was quite a cliffhanger you let us on there.
Um,
That was a cliffhanger. Wait to
Yeah.
see if the rocket's gonna update.
Yeah, this is what hopefully will, like what is happening right now, like it's here is actually built like determining what is changed. We basically create like a manifest of all the files and in a way, well, yeah, here it is.
There we go.
Here we go. Let's see if
Yes.
it worked. And it did work.
As if by magic.
There we
Yeah.
go. Rocket magic.
It's good to be the development manager.
Yes, they did a good job. Like I actually said, told the team, don't break anything this afternoon.
Take the night off.
Yes, exactly. No deployments afternoon.
Okay, that's awesome. What are some of the things that your team is working on as you look into the future?
Good question. This is part of the hidden part of my presentation.
Let's
That-
go to the hidden part now.
Yeah, so these are questions. So I have a coming soon part of yeah, we cannot see that, but I probably can show here, or she can show, Carla can show. So basically, like real soon we will have real native app previews. So basically what you saw before as the preview that I showed is just the web part that is a preview. The problem with that preview is that if your web app relies on a native code to run, for example, you have a part of your app that requires the camera plugin, that will not work well inside the browser because it does not have interaction on the camera on your computer because there is no capacitor, there is no native layer in between. But there are services that are that allow you to run your app in a simulator and basically interact with the app in the simulator over a browser. And we are gonna integrate basically your builds and you can ship this build to this service and then interact with your app in a simulator like I just did here on my computer. And this is coming, it was supposed to be ready this week, but this week, today is Wednesday. So this week, so it was not ready today to show, but it looks more or less like this, and then you have like at the end you have like this is an actual simulator app running in a simulator.
Okay.
Later, like there is something else that we are working on that is more on the errors detection and suggestion to how to solve these problems. That is more of an automated way of detecting what's going on, what failed your own build, and suggest solutions that involve interaction with the AI and our own documentation.
Okay.
This gonna come a bit later.
Kind of a debugger.
Yeah, sort of like, but less specific with your app, like I would say, and more specific to like your building your app on Appflow. Like we of like usually like the errors are quite clear. Like I don't know, Xcode compiler fails for some reason. Maybe works on your computer. Maybe you forgot to add some like parameters, so we can. But we have, I don't know, a knowledge base in our documentation. We have our own docs, our customer success collects all these kind of use cases and errors, so we can point to the AI to look at, to basically index like these pages and then suggest proper solution, like without the user interacting with our customer success, for example. Like we had like a proof of concept that was kind of nice, and with the demo last week when we gathered together in Madison for our engineering remote week, and it was quite exciting to see that it works pretty well. Yeah, and then there are other parts that more long term, like more related to enterprise, I would say.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Can you guys hear me? Because I had a couple questions as well. Awesome. You talked about bypassing the App Store for, I guess, small updates, and I was just looking for a clarification there. So basically, as far as I'm aware, anytime you update in the App Store, specifically to iOS here, you basically need to download the update. You'll get that notification on your phone. Are you saying you could do smaller updates and not receive that, like, hey, you need to update this, but
Yes.
only for the longer ones? So you can designate which ones basically get sent to the end user.
You can designate which app version gets updated, and you can update only the web part of the app, not the native part. If you need to update the native part, you need to go through the App Store, because that would be against terms of service.
Gotcha. And follow-up question, sorry, I got kids running around in the background, causing a whole bunch of noise. Follow-up there is, you mentioned you're the high code versus low code, and I was curious about your direction in the future of, are you guys going to stay towards high code? Or are you looking to make it more low code and more available to users all around?
You want to take
the idea is to actually start kind of merging high code and low code, to be able to like actually ship low code experiences and high code applications, and vice versa, like high code experiences and low code applications. So that's the kind of the direction long term that we want to head into.
Awesome, thanks. Those are my questions.
I have a couple questions. So when we talk about updates that come from Ionic in this case.
Yeah.
How often are they? Is it on a regular schedule, or it's kind of depending on the demand or the different feedback that you get from your customers? Or
You mean updates to Appflow or updates
I
of
guess-
the apps inside Appflow?
I guess because the framework is essentially open source, right?
Right.
And so will it be for all of your different products or all the different open source?
Yeah. So we usually try to ship like one major release for open source a year. But that can change if there's like a UX paradigm change on iOS or Android mid-year, or there's some new native control or something or the other. We might release two, but we tend to release one, what we call major release a year, and then on a monthly, maybe little less monthly cadence, like ship minor releases for our open source. And then for Appflow, these guys are releasing every day.
We basically release updates to Appflow like multiple times a day, and like we release I don't know, build stacks as soon as there is something that is incompatible with the previous one, like so it can happen that we usually have a big release date that is in the fall when there's a new Xcode coming and a new Android platform coming, and then a new node. We do all the platform. We do a big release of all the different build stacks, but we release multiple times a year. I was just working on this like before this afternoon, because we need to create a new Linux build stacks to build Android and web apps, because some dependency were upgraded, and yes, people can work around that, but like now that there are new stable version, we need to support it, so like out of the box. So we need, like I was saying, we promised to not touch the old one, so whoever is locked on certain version of the code, they will have the previous build stack for 2 years untouched. And that's why we create a new one, and then people can opt in whenever they want.
Thank you. And had one other question now, just flew off my mind, but can't think now. I had one question. I got too deep into listening to the updates answer, so I'll think about it. But
Yeah.
well, any other questions from the virtual attendees? Anything? Okay. Yes, thank you. So Liza's saying thank you. This was great. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.